Scooby-Doo, what's your conclusion? Bunny. Thank you for letting me be myself again.
Thank you for letting me be myself again. Once again. Thank you for letting me be myself again.
Once again. Don't be.
Hello, my fellow YouTubers and subscribers, and welcome to my latest movie review, where today I review the second live-action Scooby-Doo movie from Gosnell, Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed, released in 2004, directed by Gosnell once again, and starring all the cast from the first movie, plus written by James Gunn and the same writers from the first movie. The Mystery Inc. gang must save Coolsville from an attack of their past monsters brought to life by an evil masked figure trying to take down the gang. So, Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed. Well, the first movie had mixed reviews, to say the least. That's kind of a compliment, really. Yeah, the first movie was not really liked by a lot of people. The critics weren't so hot on it. Some of the fans didn't mind it. I know there's some people that consider the first one to be a bit of a guilty pleasure movie, and I guess I can kind of see where they're coming from. I don't think it's a great movie, but there are aspects of it that I personally quite like. Scooby-Doo 2, I remember when this movie was releasing. I ended up seeing it twice for some reason. I saw it once with my dad and my sister, and then I went at some point later on with another friend. So it was kind of fun to watch the movie twice when it first came out. And Scooby-Doo 2, the general feeling with this one, I think, is sort of similar to the first, but a lot of people say it is better than the first one, and I have to agree. This is indeed an improvement over the first film. I would say it's only a minor improvement. I still think this movie suffers from some of the same issues that plagued the original film. Though what I will say is that it is really cool to have this cast back. You know, once again, these actors are just incredible. I love, Freddie Prinze Jr. as Fred. He's really interesting in this film because he's dealing with a lot of the media attention, and he's kind of struggling to know what to say to the media, and I kind of liked that aspect of his character where everything he is saying is being taken out of context and used against him. So the movie presents an interesting angle of like how the media tend to manipulate celebrities into taking what they say and twisting it, which I think is nice, and I kind of wish they would have explored more of that. And with this film, Sarah Michelle Gellar as Daphne, once again, very good, still sort of tough and kick-ass like she was in the first film. She doesn't go on as much of a journey this time, but she is good in this film. Matthew Lilalrd, once again, steals the show as Shaggy. He's just incredible in this movie. In both these films, he's been amazing. I do like him in this one. And Linda Cardellini as Velma goes on a bit more of a journey this time. She gets a lot more to do because Velma has a boyfriend. Well, it's a guy she likes. They don't really become exclusive, but she likes the curator of the museum known as Patrick, played by Seth Green. I mean, it's never really stated explicitly, but as far as I know, Velma is a character that is potentially gay in the original cartoons or in a version of the story. In this version, clearly she's not, which is fine. I mean, Velma's sexuality is not really anything that concerns me. I don't care whether she's gay or straight. It doesn't make any difference to me personally. But for this particular movie, it doesn't really add a whole lot to the plot. I understand why they tried to do this, because they were trying to mislead you into thinking Patrick was the bad guy. So they were trying to create some sort of emotional impact around the relationship. But I don't think the relationship is strong enough for you to really feel anything. And moreover, just the whole writing, once again, is the thing that suffers here. The first film had an incredibly strange tone and a very strange script and story and a very convoluted mess of a plot that didn't really make a lot of sense, especially with Scrappy-Doo being the villain. This one does win over the first one in terms of the villains anyway. The mystery is not well thought out at all. We get this messy, confusing backstory about these two guys, one of them called Jonathan Jacobo and the other one, Old Man Wickles. They had this rivalry or something which is barely explained, and we are introduced to this compound called Randomonium. Randomonium, yeah? Yeah, that's how dumb it is. That's about as dumb as the words unobtainium. At least unobtainium is real. But yeah, Randomonium, which apparently is this green substance that causes monsters to come alive for some strange reason. And then the movie just goes on from there in terms of, misdirecting you as to who is the actual villain behind the mask, because there's a masked figure that reveals himself in the beginning. You know, many times we are misled into thinking that it's Patrick because he's threatening people when he's putting on a tough guy act, because his museum gets broken into and he's trying to find out the source of the issue in that sense. And then we're also introduced to Heather Jasper Howe, played by Alicia Silverstone, who is a news reporter, and she is the one who is really sort of manipulating Mystery Inc.'s reputation, because they start the film in a good place. They open their own museum, they're pretty much celebrities. And then very quickly, Shaggy and Scooby are blamed for the antics that happen in terms of the, you know, exhibits coming to life, the creatures, the monsters, attacking everybody. And Shaggy and Scooby are blamed for that. But in terms of Heather as a character, she's okay. I mean, Alicia Silverstone tries her best, but there's that one scene with Daphne where Daphne is onto her. And she's like, oh, you're a him, who are her, who is you? And you're like, what? So they try to misdirect you into thinking it's her, but then it's not her, because you see the guy stood on top of the city mall tower, or something. I don't know where it is, but on top of the building. But then it does turn out to be her. But then she also turns out to be a dude. She turns out to be Jacobo. It gets confusing. Like, why on earth does Jacobo disguise himself as a woman who disguises herself in the mask? Like, what? This is so nuts. It's not quite as zany as the first movie, but it still doesn't make sense. I mean, anything beats Scrappy-Doo as a cyborg, I suppose. So that whole aspect of the mystery, I mean, it's not surprising that it's her, but the fact that Jacobo is her is just very weird. I never understood that. It doesn't make sense. The backstory about Jacobo going to prison and all of that stuff, I mean, just what the fuck is going on with this plot? It does not make any sense. Once again, you just go along for the ride. What I will say, though, is this movie is definitely more entertaining than the first one. There's a lot more action sequences, I guess you could say. There's a lot of chase scenes with the monsters, and there's a great scene when Shaggy and Scooby are sliding down like a forest hill, and they're being chased by the skeletons, and they're on these, like, I don't know what you call them, like metal lids or something. That's a great sequence. And there's a great chase with the pterodactyl ghost pulling the rug out of the mystery machine, and the mystery machine is driving around, and Scooby's driving the van, which is really cool. That is actually quite fun. And Daphne gets us in a great fight scene with the black ghost. That is awesome. And the visual effects are definitely better. They are definitely better than they are in the first one. They're a bit more realistic, even though a lot of them have all the kind of the green mist going on. Sparky Ghost, the electrical ghost, is really well done, actually. I have to say, that one looks really cool. Also, the cotton candy glob, that is one of the funniest scenes in the movie. That is really quite funny. But some of the humor, once again, is overly sexualized. It's kind of like the Michael Bay thing with Transformers. They have sexualized what was once a kid's property. Like, they literally do this to Shaggy.
I'm okay, Scoob. I'm good at Chink's body.
Shaggy boobs. They give Shaggy boobs. Oh, God, that's uncomfortable. Oh, and not to mention this scene. Who's your mommy? My mommy? This is a kid's movie. What are you doing? What were they thinking? Over-sexualizing Velma just so she could impress Patrick. It's so unnecessary. It doesn't add anything to the film. It's just an excuse to have Linda Cardellini dress in some hot leather outfit, which is totally inappropriate for a kid's film. And it is so awkward. It's so cringy. I know it's supposed to be funny because of that. It is so embarrassing to watch. Oh, I mean, the actors do their best with that, but my God, that is uncomfortable. That is very strange. Although there is quite a nice sequence where the gang go back to their old home, and then we see a flashback of them when they were younger, and they're playing with Scooby and everything, and you know, that's lovely. So it was nice to get a bit more background context into their relationship. And the whole third act of the film is quite fun when they try to go back to put the control panel into the machine where all the monsters were let out, and then Scooby is the one that has to use the fire extinguisher to do that, which is really fun. And all the monsters do look great. Like I said, the visual effects are fantastic, but there are some more practical ones as well. And a lot of these monsters are ones from the cartoon. So this movie tries to homage the cartoons a bit more than the first one. Well, a lot more than the first one. I'd also got to mention Neil Fanning, who does the voice of Scooby-Doo. I don't know if I mentioned him in the first review, but the voice is really good. It's really well done. And my goodness me, it's some of the best moments of the film are Shaggy and Scooby. And I like the fact there is the suggestion of a character journey with Shaggy and Scooby, because they are screw-ups. They have messed up and they want to prove themselves to the team. So I like that. I really like that they go on that kind of journey. And it is kind of taken further, but more so from Scooby, because he's the one that saves the day, really, which I think is good, and that's sort of how it should be. And the dynamic with the main characters is very, very good. And like I said, it's a real shame that this cast didn't get a third one, because it would have been great to just have one more time to see these cast members do a mystery. I mean, obviously, this movie is still messy in terms of the writing, but the performances, that they are so close to the animated counterparts, and the costumes are fantastic. The production design looks great, and it does feel, you can tell that it does feel like the cartoons. It's just the script is the only letdown. So James Gunn, you let the ball drop on this one. You really did. And actually, yeah, Seth Green, I want to mention him as Patrick. Again, an interesting character. I mean, he's clearly a love interest, of course, for Velma. But the whole kind of misdirect with Patrick in terms of thinking he's the villain, it doesn't really work, because it's so signposted that Heather is the villain, well, Jacobo, really. The writing it contradicts itself, and it's convoluted, so you can't really get much impact out of it. But there is a joy of seeing these characters again and letting them have one last hurrah. Although one thing I did forget to mention in my previous review was the scene when Scooby disguises himself as a grandmother. It's so bad. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's kind of stupid. Like, even the film is self-aware of it. Like, when they say no one is stupid enough to believe that disguise will work. Like, what the fuck? And they do something similar in this movie, where Scooby disguises himself as a guy in an afro, and he flirts with someone, and she goes, "Hey, handsome." Baby. Yeah, it doesn't really work, and it's really cringy, and they're dancing to the "thank you for letting me be myself." That whole sequence in the Faux Ghost, the sort of the club, the bar with all the nasty rejects, I guess you could say, where they all expose Shaggy and Scooby. That whole sequence is kind of unnecessary. You could have just skipped past all of that. But for what it is a minor improvement over the first one, and there was definitely potential for this to get better with a third film, but sadly this movie underperformed so much that the third one was scrapped, which is a real shame. I still think Roger Gosnell is a very poor director. I don't think his direction is particularly great, and a lot of the choices with the humor, I think, really have alienated these movies, and I think by trying to make them a bit more sexualized and a bit more mature was wrong, because these are kids movies and the cartoons were made for kids. So having all this raunchy humor, like "who's your mommy" and all that stuff, it doesn't work. And it's interesting, because I found out recently that there was going to be a lot more mature, well, humor or mature adult scenes in these Scooby-Doo films. They were meant to be more raunchy than what they are, which is kind of weird. And it's weird to use the word raunchy to describe a Scooby-Doo film, but that is the impression you try to get. It's like they want to go further with it, but they have to hold back to get the rating. When I watched this film and the first one on Amazon, it said contains, mild slapstick humor and sexual content. That was a red flag right there. As soon as I saw that, I thought, oh my gosh, that doesn't bode well. But, for what it is, it's entertaining, and it is a better film than the first one. So I think it's enjoyable to a certain degree, but honestly, this is quite a mediocre movie because of the writing. If the writing was better, I could probably pass it, but because the mystery is so incoherent, I just can't give it a pass. So what I will do is I will give Scooby-Doo 2 a 5 out of 10.
Thank you for letting me be myself again. Once again. Thank you for letting me
It's a minor improvement over the first one. Sadly, not great. But my gosh, do I miss this cast. This cast was fantastic, and they did so well. I mean, the time has passed now. There's never going to be a third one at this point. You know, time has passed. Even though these movies have got kind of a cult following, people do acknowledge that they're not very good. But I still thank this cast for what they did, because, my goodness me, they were perfect. But it's nice to know that Matthew Lillard actually carried on playing Shaggy after these movies. I think everything else that came afterwards with Scooby-Doo related, he was cast as Shaggy, and he got to continue that throughout his career, which was fantastic. So yeah, that's my review of Scooby-Doo 2. What do you think of this film? Please comment down below, let me know, and stay tuned for more reviews in the future. So until next time, I'm Pajak's Perspective. See ya. Bye for now.